Hey everybody, this is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. My guest this week is Baiyina Brown, team leader of the award-winning Living Well Homes Collective based out of our Chestnut Hill office. Baiyina is a respected leader in our industry and brings a wealth of experience, insight, and professionalism to the table, with her team earning Chairman Circle Diamond Award honors in 2024. In today's episode, Baiyina and I are going to discuss a topic that often gets overlooked, but can be critical to your business nonetheless. Our topic today is the power of professionalism, why agent-to-agent communication can make or break a deal. In an industry where timing, trust, and teamwork are everything, how we communicate with our colleagues can have a direct impact on our clients, our reputation, and ultimately our success. That's why Baiyina and I are here to break it all down in our episode today. I'm super excited to have her with us, so let's get right into the conversation with this week's guest, Baiyina Brown. I'm here with Baiyina Brown from our Chestnut Hill office, team leader of the Living Well Homes Collective. And we're here today to discuss the power of professionalism, why agent-to-agent communication can make or break a deal. Are you ready to get into this with me?
I'm ready, and I'm super excited to have this conversation, and I'm very happy that spring is coming. The flowers are blooming, and it's just so nice to be able to be outside.
Yeah, it's nice to leave our home every once in a while, this beautiful Pennsylvania weather that we're having. So, all right, I want to start with the basics with you. So, in your experience, how important is agent-to-agent communication in getting deals across the finish line?
So I think that agent-to-agent communication is essential in all deals. At the top of the list would be solution-oriented communication.
Yes.
A lot of times agents think that we should be adversaries rather than collaborators. And I find that to be just such a misstep with agents, because we really need to work together to get things done. That's how deals get done, is by agents working together.
I never understood the mindset why people pit each other against each other in a real estate deal, right? We are there to get to the finish line. Both sides of the deal get paid once we consummate this marriage at settlement, right? Like we're there to work together to make it to the finish line, not to blow up transactions. And I never understood that, and like you said, being solution based and not be emotional about the things that happen in a transaction, but to find a solution to those problems in order to work together. Do you agree with that?
Totally agree. The seller wants to sell the house. The buyer wants to buy the house. We all need to work together to get it done.
And I do have to tell you, one thing that kind of really rubs me the wrong way is, and I'm gonna do a lot of venting in this podcast. So maybe you're just along for the ride, Baiyina. Maybe I'll just
I love it.
I hate about the lack of communication, but the lack of feedback. I feel like has gotten so out of hand. When you have showings, you desperately want feedback. Like, you get it. Like, the buyers probably do not have interest in your listing, but please provide feedback so I can give that to my seller and help our process. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like that's worse? We got in the business at the same time. I think 2007, we both got into it. And I feel like it's gotten worse as we've gone along here. Do you agree with that?
I do. And I think that it's gotten worse because as agents, we have so much coming at us. So I see both sides. As a buyer's agent, you're running around, you're getting all these emails, you're getting all these text messages. And as a seller's agent, we're all running around. But there's so many different ways to communicate. When we started, it was just like the phone and the email, right? And so it was like, it wasn't all these text messages as well. So you go through your emails and you just do your feedback. It was just something that we did. Now it just seems like a whirlwind of all kinds of things all the time. So much spam in your email, you can't even see everything. So what I started to do, because I think that I I saw myself sometimes even missing feedback, and I'm like, oh no, well, I'm not that person.
Mhm.
Um, so what I do is I actually, if I don't get feedback within a day or so, I'll just text the agent and say, hey, how'd your showing go? Just wanted to know if you had any feedback. And that actually works better than just relying on the like showing time feedback, which I think gets lost in all the emails that people get. So just kind of personalizing everything in a way. That's what I
That,
kind of do.
that's a great point that you bring up. I really do think I never really thought about it that way about feedback getting lost in the shuffle, but you are right. We receive a billion emails all the time. And I was going to ask you, with so many ways to communicate today, why is it so seemingly difficult to communicate with with our peers, right? And maybe you just answered that question.
It's too much. It's like when you go to the supermarket and there's like two aisles of cereal, it's hard to choose. So I think people just get stuck. And when we first started, there were not so many emails. This is insane. The amount of emails that I get every day is insane. And most of it is not from other agents. It's not the feedback. It's just everyone trying to sell me like some kind of lead service.
It is absolutely constant.
It's nuts. So we didn't have this many emails when we first started in the mid 2000s. We didn't have so many emails. It was so easy to keep control of your emails back then. Now it's just out of hand.
If you're trying to get a hold of a listing agent, you're on the buying side, you're trying to get a hold of the listing agent. How do you personally best handle situations where the listing agent is unresponsive or difficult to get a hold of? How far do you push to get a hold of somebody?
So I kind of do, if my buyer is really interested in the property, I do a little bit of research if I don't know the agent. Now, oftentimes I do know the agent, so I kind of know what way they like to communicate. But if I don't, and they're really hard to communicate with, I kind of do a little bit of research. I'll look at their profile on social media. I will look at their transactions in the MLS and see, are they super busy? Are they not super busy? Kind of get a gauge for like who they are. It's easy to do some quick research.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll try all the avenues. And usually I kind of disarm people by asking them how they like to communicate. What are their favorite modes of communication? And beyond that, what times of day work best for them? Do they prefer calls in the morning? Do they prefer evening? I know there's some agents who will email me and it's like, I don't know, in the middle of the night or, something like that. So everyone's on different timing. So I just like to figure people out. I mean, I think we're kind of in the business of figuring people out.
I think you got.
And I never get mad. I mean, I don't get nasty with people ever. I'm always friendly, always professional, and I don't take it personal, which I think is also important in our business. Some agents take things personal. I don't take it personal, like they just don't want to talk to me. No, they're busy. I need to figure out what is the best way to communicate with this person.
That's an excellent answer. I mean, I'm no stranger. I don't know. I think we talked about this before. I am not a morning person. So I got to tell you, you talk about getting angry. You don't get angry. I get angry if you text me. If you text me at like 6 in the morning, we're gonna have a problem. Like those are like fighting words for me. I don't care. I don't care if you tell me you're bringing me an offer. I don't care if it's 100,000 over asking. Like boundaries. Don't text me at 6 in the morning. But I will say that I'm the kind of agent that if you text me at like midnight, I'm probably okay with that because I'm a night person, right? But to your point, I'm being facetious. But to your point, I don't get angry either because it's all about how am I going to best service my client and how are we going to get to the finish line. And if you happen to be the best agent for the job and you're bringing the best offer, we're going to make it work.
That's
And
right.
because that's what's going to benefit my client. As far as how far I push. I mean, very rarely have I ever had to reach out to a broker, but I have done that before. If I can't get a hold of an agent, I will go to the broker and kind of blow up their cover. But if it calls for that, I feel like, listen, I'm trying my best to service my client and have a fiduciary responsibility to make this happen. If I want to submit an offer, I have to make sure I can get a hold of this person and submit it. And if the agent's not going to do it, then the broker has to do it. I
That's
don't
right.
know. Yeah, I don't know if I
Now,
agree, but
I would go that far in certain situations and have. And honestly, the way that I would do it is probably reaching out to the office manager or broker, depending on which
yeah,
brokerage it is.
I
And
should clarify the sales leader, whoever that is.
yes, and just say, "Oh, I have a client who really wants to put an offer in. Is so and so on vacation, or are they okay?" You
Yes.
know, because things happen. Somebody could be on vacation, or somebody could have gotten into a car accident. So I'll put little feelers out and try to figure out what's
So
going
and so
on.
is not in a coma, if I'm understanding correctly.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
Or somebody didn't die. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. He's still alive, right? So, so let me ask you this then. What's a mistake that you often see buyer agents make when they're communicating with you as a listing agent that potentially can cost them the deal? Is there something that they do or they don't do that can kind of be a red flag for you or maybe cost them in your eyes?
Definitely oversharing.
Ah,
I
okay.
and I say that because as much as we are friendly and speaking with one another and trying to get information, sometimes I think buyer agents do overshare and they may weaken their position just because if you are talking to me about your client and we're just being friendly and you're saying your client is oh, they're hard to get in contact with. Yeah, I sent this out for signature yesterday. I haven't gotten it back yet, or they're wishy any way showing that they're like a little bit wishy-washy, that's going to be red flags for me. So I'm going to say be strategic with what you share and how, because it can really put, like a black cloud over the situation where I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, I actually go the opposite direction too, where so I just had a listing, had a couple offers on it, and the first offer was a really solid offer. The agent was in communication. They did a really good job of asking what was important to my seller with their offer. And then I get another offer a few days later of an agent that never provided feedback, never called me to ask me anything about the property, did not touch base in any way, and just submitted an offer to me at like midnight. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess they like the property. But the lack of communication, not that that completely disqualifies them. Ultimately, it's up to my seller, but it just shows kind of how this transaction is going to go potentially, right? That they're going to be difficult to communicate with. They might be MIA, and they're not voicing, I guess, advocating for their client very strongly. They're just submitting the offer and they're almost disappearing. Do you
Yep,
find
totally
that happens
agree.
a lot to you?
It doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened, and I think either extreme is bad.
Yeah, but
No
yeah.
communication and too much. We need to fall somewhere in the middle. Like, let's be human, but let's not give away all the secrets. But also, it's so strange when you just suddenly receive an offer and you've never heard from the person at all.
And you often wonder, like, is this legit? Like, who does this?
Exactly.
Like,
Who does that?
like,
Exactly. Who
how
does
legit
that?
could this possibly be if they're not communicating at all? It just boggles my mind, especially in the market that we're in, when you're
Exactly.
getting multiple offers and people are reaching out, and then this person doesn't. It makes it that stranger, you
It
know?
is really strange.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So let me ask you this. From your perspective, what's the right balance between persistence and professionalism when following up on a submitted offer? Because I've had, several occasions recently where I've submitted an offer. I don't hear back from the listing agent. It's getting close to our acceptance date, right? The timing. We're well into the night and I haven't heard anything at all. So at that point in time, like how persistent are you? Like, do you push pretty heavily at that point, or do you kind of give them some space and try and see what happens as you get closer to midnight?
So I always try to respect the listing agent's timeline first. I like to ask questions, ask what to expect. So when should we expect a response? Around what time? Sometimes they can't tell you exactly, but they may say, we'll be talking this time, so you can expect a response tomorrow morning by 9 or before 12 or something like that. So then maybe the night, but I'm pretty gentle, I think. I will send like text saying, my client is looking forward to your response tomorrow morning, that type of thing. And then if if I don't hear back from them in the morning, then I'll say, okay, well, just checking in. My client is really excited to hear your response. Uh, but I'm not super pushy up until then. I like to know what is the timeline, and then I follow suit in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I love your wording there. You're so respectful. I'm more like, hey, dummy, where's the response, you know? No, I don't take it that far, but I like you like to set clarity, I guess, when I do submit the offer. When should we expect to hear from you? When do you think you'll be reviewing everything? And I am very, very respectful of agents' time because I know everybody's busy. They're not going to get back to us right away. But if you do say that you're going to get back to somebody, often our clients are on pins and needles. They want to know.
Exactly.
And so if you go back and tell them, hey, we should hear something by 8 o'clock tomorrow night, if we don't, then I'm gonna, like you said, I'm gonna be following up with you to see kind of where things are. Not in a negative, rude way, like I had mentioned earlier. I'm just kidding, but I do want to check in and make sure that we're still gonna hear something, right?
That's
You know?
right. And it's, I think, talking about communication, if you do set a timeline, I think it's really important for us to kind of stick to those timelines because, like you said, to your point, the buyers are on pins and needles. In our market, there's multiple offers, and they're so anxious and almost in a panic waiting to hear back. It's I know that my clients have gotten really upset when the agent comes back and says, "Well, actually, we're not going to get back to you at 8 p.m. tonight. We're going to get back to you tomorrow at noon instead." And it's like, "Wait, what? We put the response date of this because you said so and you told us." They do get upset about that. And so then you have this balance of staying professional and friendly with the agent because you don't want to get on their bad side, right?
Yeah.
But then also calming your client down and saying, I'm so sorry. The sellers are just having a really hard time choosing and they need to sleep on it. And I usually will just help to make my buyers feel better somehow and say the other side is having a hard time for whatever reason, just to balance it out because I don't want anybody to be upset.
Well, so I'm gonna go on the flip side of this and ask you, how do you handle as a listing agent the strong armors? So these are the agents that see the property the first day, they submit an offer, and they want an answer within like an hour. And you've already told everybody, like, listen, we're gonna have showings through the weekend. We're gonna see, we'll review on Monday. But right now we're setting, Monday is going to be the day for a response to everything. And these people want a response, like I said, like ASAP. How do you handle agents like that?
The response is no.
That's
No,
very
honestly, of course, we're required by law to present everything to our clients.
absolutely.
I think it's a big mistake for agents to do that because, in my experience, that puts the sellers on guard. They're like, but we said we needed this time, and we're trying to be respectful of other buyers and agents who have already scheduled appointments to get them through it. And I have never had a client say yes to those people. They always say no. Not one time have I had someone say yes. They always say no. They're like, well, didn't they see our note? Like, no,
But I also feel like it ruins your bargaining position because if
it
you're
does.
gung ho about this property, we know exactly what you're doing. You're trying to corner this property before everybody else gets in to see it. But it also says, hey, you really want this property. So I always advise my clients, like you said, it's up to them. But I always advise my clients, let's play this out because the chances of them walking away and taking their offer and going home are slim to none.
Very
And it
slim.
always benefits them to see what the weekend will pan out, you know?
Definitely. And if they are willing to walk away or do walk away, they weren't real buyers.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So I'm interested to know when you submit an offer with a buyer, do you include a cover letter in your email? Do you include any kind of video or messages with your offer to help you stand out? What do you do when you're submitting an offer, and what do you find works for you?
I don't do video. I know everybody does video. I do not do video, but I do write. I don't do a cover letter. I feel like too many things to click on. I put my whole offer in one. I know some people don't like that. I like to have it all in one. So it's like one click, one printout. If you have elderly clients, you print it all out, it's all there. But in the message, I will write kind of an introductory paragraph about my clients, their strength. Obviously, not telling things that we're not supposed to, but not saying anything wrong, but showing how strong they are as buyers, um, maybe a little something about them. And then I write something about me. I say how long I've been in the business, my experience. I have great relationships with other agents and also with the lender. So if it's a lender, I'll put the information of the lender right there in the body of the email. After I talk about myself, I make sure they know my communication style and I will work with their communication style and then put the lender in, basically say, I've worked with this lender, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Concisely,
Yeah.
concise. I don't want to write anything too long because our attention spans have gotten shorter. So put all the information in there, quick and easy to read, and a comprehensive summary of the offer.
Yes, I love that. So I will tell you, I do the video. It does seem to go over well because out where I am, not a lot of people are doing videos with their cover letters, and so I always get that like, oh, I should start doing a video. And I'm like, well, at least it helps us to stand out, right? Even if we don't get the property, the agents are telling me that they remember the video. I love the one PDF. Oh my God. I am so with you on that. Just give me one PDF where I can click on it, print it out, all one thing. Don't send me 15 attachments. That drives me
Yeah.
crazy. So I had to ask you, do you upload a presentation of offers into Bright at all? I have a presentation of offers, and that is one of my prerequisites is that I ask you to please put it into one PDF when you're submitting an offer to me. So I don't know if you do that at all.
I don't, but I really should. I'm
Yeah.
going to put it on my master to-do list.
It helps, I'm telling you. And then I do love how you talk about the beginning. You might say something about your clients, obviously nothing that violates fair housing laws. But what I do is I tell that agent what my clients love about that property.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so, like, make sure you get into that. They can see themselves living there for years to come, blah, blah, blah. They love the updated kitchen, yada, yada, yada. But I love what you say also about yourself. And I do the same thing at the end that I say, I promise to be responsive, on time with all my deadlines, easy to work with. We're going to find solutions and we're going to make it to the finish line. So I'm putting it out there like, this is what I'm promising you, agent to agent, and
Yes,
my people are excited to have this property. So it shows an eagerness for them to get to the finish line as well.
yes.
So I want to talk tone a little bit with you here. How do you keep your communication firm, clear, and professional, especially when tensions are running high in a transaction and a lot of emotion can be involved?
So, again, I think being clear and concise with communication, keeping it focused. I usually will say, my client is requesting this because of that, or, the buyer is concerned about this, so that. I like to keep emotion out of it and also make sure that it's not like me against them as far as me and the agent. This is my client and this is what they want and this is why. I like to keep emotion out of it, keep it constructive, keep it concise, not talk too much. It's like bop 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 bop. Done. And then I stop talking.
Yeah.
We have to not try to fill all the silence, right? Like just let there be silence sometimes.
Well, if anybody listens to this podcast, they know that I fill silence with plenty of blabbering. So you can probably anticipate my negotiating style is probably talking too much for your liking. But I do wholeheartedly agree with you that when I was a younger agent, there would be times where I would let emotion get the best of me. And I think we've all been at that point where maybe we say something that I'm like, you know what, I shouldn't have taken the bait. I shouldn't have said something that not that it's so far out of bounds, but just showing a little bit of anger, towards a situation when you feel like you're not being treated right or your client's not being treated right. And you are so right. Like I've learned over the years to just keep it factual, keep it emotionless as much as possible. And it's the price of being a professional that we don't let our emotions get the best of us and we don't get married to the outcome of a transaction, or even married to the tone of another agent, right?
That's great.
They may come with some kind of tone that you think is completely unprofessional, but that doesn't stop you from being a professional, right?
Exactly. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I'm human, so I could get upset about something and then I'll write my little message and then I just go back and edit it and
Yes.
make it very clear, concise, professional, and emotion free. But
I,
sometimes you have to get it out. You have to write it out, then erase it.
well, my
Yeah,
wife, as you know, my wife is my sounding board. I might text you something that is completely professional, and I might be saying something very different to my wife behind the scenes. But you know how that goes, right? You just keep it off official
that's
things,
right.
that's in the background. Sometimes you got to scream into your pillow for a little while, and then you're fine.
Yeah. And another thing I find is whether you have the buyer or the seller, keep the emotion out when you talk to them
Yes.
because even
Yeah.
if you feel a little bit offended or whatever it might be by the other agent, the way they talk to you, whatever it is, don't tell your client that.
Exactly.
Keep that all to yourself and just keep everything flowing professionally. They never need to know about some problem between you and the agent or the agent yelling or whatever it is. You just keep it flowing.
I always like the analogy that I've heard along the line somewhere of a duck sitting on a pond, right? You don't see any movement above the surface, but below we're all paddling like crazy, right? To go
Yeah.
places. And I feel like that's how we are. And I feel like the best compliment that we can get from our clients is when they say to us, I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you do this on a daily basis, but you did an incredible job. We couldn't be happier, but I could never do it for a living. And that means they know all the things that you've gone through and you got them there regardless, right?
Yes. I love that too.
Do you believe texting is appropriate for serious deal negotiations, or do you prefer a phone call or even an email, to provide clarity to either an agent or your clients? Like, where do you come down? Because I've always been a phone call guy, but I know a lot of times you have to meet your people where they are. And so whether it's your own clients or another agent, how do you go about I guess, communicating and making sure that it's done well?
That's exactly where I go. It depends. It depends on the other agent. If it's certain groups
Hmm.
are, it's better to talk to them on the phone and talk things out. And other groups are 100% texters. I'm okay with whatever way they like to communicate. Now, if it's a texter and I feel like the communication is a little too complicated for text, then I'll say in a text, when is a good time for me to call you so we can discuss this further?
I do think that many times, obviously, you may text something that is incredibly long. And it's like, why aren't we just talking at this point? Why are you making me text like, 2,000 characters? Like I'm writing an MLS description in my text, right? And like, why am I doing this right now? Let's just hop on a phone call and talk voice to voice. Or we have a Zoom together, right? And I'm talking client to agent. But even if you're talking agent to agent, a lot of times, like I prefer to call you rather than to text you. That's just me, but I will meet you where you are.
Yep,
So,
that's exactly what I do.
all
Depends
right.
on who I'm talking to.
Yep. So, in your opinion, what's one soft skill that newer agents should develop to become more effective communicators in the industry? So, go back to when you started. What do you think that you do better now, communication wise, than you used to do once upon a time?
I think that over the years, I have become a way better active listener, or it's something that I've really worked on, especially the past maybe like 5 years, where just having like this calm and listening and not running in my head like I need to answer that right now or this right now. And even sometimes just, making a little note of things that maybe jogged something in my brain, but just listening to people is so important for communication. It's not like the actual communication part of it, but listening and really paying attention to what people are saying because you get a lot more than you would if you're jumping in at every moment trying to answer something. So I'd say listening.
I think I think a large part of that, if and again, I don't know the beginning stages of your career, but I think a lot of that comes with the confidence that you have when you've been in the industry and second nature wise how you're going to respond to something or maybe handle an objection. You're confident about that now because you've been successful, you've dealt with so many clients, and when you're newer, you're constantly thinking about like maybe scripts in your mind or how am I going to overcome this
Yes,
objection? And like you said, and it doesn't allow you to listen as intently as you otherwise would. Is that, would you say
I
that for?
agree. I would totally agree. And I think that's one of the things that uh, clients say to me who come to me from other agents. They say, I was working with this agent. They were sending me properties that had none of the things that I told them I wanted, or in areas that I didn't want, or just showing me things in a price range because they knew I could go up to this, but that's not what I said that I wanted to do. I've had so many clients over the past several years come to me from other agents specifically because they didn't feel the agent was listening to what they wanted.
100%. 100%. I'm in the same boat as you. It all often boggles my mind where, listening to a client talk about a relationship they had with another agent before, finding me and just what a lack of, like you said, listening skills that some people have out there. It boggles my mind. And so it actually makes our job a lot easier, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, well, I'll listen to you. I'm going to set up this search the way you want me to set up this search and not try and push this property on you, it's crazy. So, all right. So have you ever won an offer specifically because of how you communicated or positioned your clients' offers? And what did you do differently to win out in that scenario? If you'd be willing to share.
I that has happened. That has happened. And I think that it's because of my communication with the agent. In one instance, it was a younger agent, and I mean, they communicate a certain way. They text more, and again, I will communicate whatever way anybody wants. And I do feel like sometimes when you have like an older agent and a younger agent, there is sometimes this hierarchy that happens. And I know that in one instance, my offer was chosen for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons was rapport. The particular agent felt that an older agent, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, sorry, was being more condescending, like, I know so much. And
I've been in the business for a year.
I've been in the business and that was not helpful.
Sometimes the communication styles will clash. Maybe it's, an agent is from one area and another agent's from another area, right? And what's customary in that area does not happen in another area. Or there are different age, kind of generational type dynamics play, which
generational.
I do feel like I straddle like the younger generation out and the older generation, which is like to my benefit being
I agree. Me too.
Yeah. Right. So like, I'm like, all right, that helps me. But no, I do agree with you that anything that you can do to ingratiate yourself to who you're talking to, like you talked about building rapport, but it's also that rapport with other agents where you get that reputation that you're easy to work with, right? Or you're very professional, you know what you're doing. So that helps me win out, all things being equal, that I have those relationships with other agents out there. So like to the younger agents that are listening, do your best to build your reputation as someone who's professional, that will get to the finish line and is easy to work with and be very communicative, because that only helps you in your career moving forward. Right, Baiyina?
Right. I agree. And then for the older agents, being condescending to the younger agents,
probably not the best thing. Like your faces that you're making right now are making me laugh. I'm sorry. So, all right, before I let you go and we let you get out of here, I got one more question. I had read about you and I did not know this, that you lived in Europe for a time. Is that correct?
I did. I lived in Geneva, Switzerland.
Oh my God. I totally, why did you leave?
I know.
Geneva seems like Switzerland is on my bucket list. Like every time you turn around, it's a postcard. Like I don't understand how there could be.
It's really beautiful.
It's amazing. So how long did you live in Geneva?
I lived there for 5 years, and I was kind of back and forth, going to Paris all the time. And just when you're in Europe, you can go everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the beauty of Europe, that you can hop on a train and pretty much go anywhere you want. So, all right. My question for you, having lived in Europe for 5 years, what is the best thing in your mind about living in Europe? And what is the worst thing about living in Europe? And one thing that you love about Philly that Europe does not have?
Okay. So the best thing about living in Europe is being able to travel so easily everywhere. From Geneva, you can hop on a train to Rome in like 5 hours, or go to Paris in 3 hours, or you can take a short plane ride. You can also get to Africa and Asia quicker. You can get like everywhere quicker than here. One thing I don't like about Europe, that's really hard. The transportation is great. The food is fresh. It doesn't have all the chemicals that our food has in it. I mean, what's there not to like?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
Taxes?
No, accents, I said.
Oh, accent. I know gas was really expensive.
Oh, okay.
Gas is really expensive.
Gas is expensive. Okay.
But public transportation is amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I hear, which I love. So, all right. So, and then what's one thing that you missed when you were in Europe that you found in Philly, but you couldn't find over there that you missed?
So what I missed most about Philly was my family, because my family is here. So I
Ah,
didn't have my family in Europe, though I do have my European family now.
yes. Well, I was gonna say I thought maybe it'd be something like, I mean, obviously I know you and I have talked about our diets, right? So
Not cheesesteaks,
I know
because I
it's
don't
not a
eat meat.
cheesesteak or a soft pretzel or anything that you missed, but
I do love Philly, and I specifically love my neighborhood, which is Mount Airy. It's where I grew up. Almost my whole family still lives here, and it's a really special neighborhood in Philly. So there's
yeah,
nothing really like it.
you missing that. You got the cobblestone streets, much like
That's right.
Europe, and.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm glad that we finally had the opportunity to do this together, and thank you so much for joining me. This was a pleasure. I think, honestly speaking, I think if I'm a newer agent, I'm listening to this podcast, you're giving them great information, great advice, what to run with when you're submitting offers, what to look at when you're on the listing side. So I think there's some great tidbits in here. So again, I appreciate your time. Much continued success to your team out there, by the way.
Thank
And,
you.
and I know I'll be seeing you, before long. We have our awards thing coming up, so maybe I'll see you there.
I'll definitely see you there. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
That was this week's episode with Baiyina Brown. Thank you to Baiyina for joining us. And one housekeeping note that I want to make you aware of. Obviously, if you listen to this podcast all the time, you know that we typically have our episodes drop on a Thursday. We are now switching to Tuesday as a episode release date. So bi-weekly, every Tuesday moving forward is when you will find a new episode coming out. The takeaway that I had from talking with Baiyina today is that you see the way that she goes about her business. She's very professional. You get that sense right away, and that's why I wanted to discuss this topic with her. I think in terms of our industry, if you're out there long enough and you show enough properties, you do enough deals, you kind of learn. Some people have a good reputation. Some people have a bad reputation in this business. Which one do you want to have? And ultimately, that is decided upon the way that you carry yourself, your professionalism. How do you communicate? How do you work well or not work well with other agents? We should always strive to be as professional as we can be, not get emotionally tied to the outcome of any transaction, but do our jobs and do it well. And that involves communicating with your co-ops in a timely fashion, making sure that you follow up with your sellers, making sure that you are negotiating the best possible deal for your clients. All of that goes into the professionalism that we should be exemplifying every day in our industry, and therefore that will lift up the entire industry as a whole. As they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. So let's work together to make our industry better. Well, that's it for the podcast this week. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest, and as always, if you want to hear a topic that I haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the podcast or left us a review yet, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.